This is Walk and Roll Live.
This is Walk and Roll Live,
a podcast dedicated to the disabled community, sharing stories of courage and triumph,
joy and discovery,
and everyday successes and challenges.
Now, here are your hosts, Doug Vincent and Eric Aguilar.
Welcome, foolish mortals, to the spooky edition of Walk and Roll Live. I am your host, Count Eric Aguilar, with my minion, Dr. Vaughn Doug.
Oh, no. So you ready for Halloween?
Yes, sir, I'm ready.
So you sent me some pictures, and I put them up on the website of your costumes with Amanda. Was that last year's?
Oh, yes. Last Halloween, we were Jack and Sally. This year, we're going to be Harley Quinn and the Joker.
All right, so we'll put up some new ones from this year. So do you go out and go trick-or-treating around the neighborhood?
Amanda wanted to go out trick-or-treating, but my mother-in-law says, can't you all to trick-or-treat now? And I said, hey, some people still trick-or-treat at that age.
Yeah, you know, I really have no problem with older kids coming in, and you know, you're quite a bit older, but I have no trouble as long as you go through the effort of making a costume. You know, the only thing I don't like is when kids just, you know, come to your door in whatever they were wearing that day. You know, come on, you know, I don't mind, you know, if you're trick-or-treating, but just have the decency to come up with a costume and come to my door. You know, that's all I care about. So, you know, but of course, my heart goes out to the little ones. I think the littler they are, you know, the little 2 or 3 year olds that can barely get up to the door, you know, and their moms and dads are kind of hanging in the back, letting them go to the door and watching. Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So.
Oh yes, I'm really looking forward to tonight, Doug. We're going to be passing out candy to all the trick-or-treaters, and we're going to order pizza, you know, to put icing on the cake. It's going to be loads of fun.
Well, I may be coming by your house. That sounds good.
For the candy or for the candy or the pizza?
Oh man, that's a toss-up. That's a toss-up. I think the candy will get me there, and the pizza will make me stay. So, how was your week? You have a good week?
Oh yes, got a good exercise, good workout in. Got some stuff done over the weekend. I'm happy with the results of my workouts because I feel like I'm getting physically stronger all over again. Yeah. Because I've been back and forth with my athletics and asking myself for weeks now, is it time for me to ride off into the sunset? Do I still have one left in me? Well, we won't know.
We won't know. Well, you let us know. You keep us posted. I had to go back this past week. I think I told you last week we went to LAX to drop my friends off. And, you know, so this was a Wednesday night, and they were coming in from back east, and their flight was originally supposed to arrive around 7:45. Well, he kept updating me. It's like, it's been delayed. So it got to the point where it wasn't going to get there until like 10:45. So I didn't even have to leave here until 8:30 or something. So it's just like, I mean, this is quintessential LA, right? So I look at on my maps on my phone, and it's like an hour and 20-minute drive. Great. And I'm thinking Wednesday night at 10 o'clock, who's going to be at the airport? So if you're familiar with getting to LAX from here, you go in on the 105, you get off, there's an off ramp just before you get to the airport. And at the end of that off ramp, you take a right and you go under a tunnel, which is going under the runway, right? And then it takes you into LAX. I get to that off ramp, and I'm thinking I'm going to have to, you know, go park somewhere and kill some time because it's 10 o'clock. You know, I still have 45 minutes, and I'm that close. It took me an hour to go that last. I mean, it couldn't have been more than a half mile. Tops a mile to go that last, you know, and, you know, talk about stop and go. It was stop, go, stop. Oh my goodness, just creeping along. And to the point where, you know, he's telling me we just landed. Well, you know, I was still a half hour away, you know, so we got him picked up and got out of there. So yeah, LAX Wednesday night, 10:45, busy. So got that going for us, but you know, it was fine. They were very appreciative, and I was glad to do it. You know, I've been looking, you know, these are things that go on in my life. a house cleaner. I've been looking for a house cleaner for the longest time. I found some good ones, and then they move out of the area, and I found somebody a year or so ago, and they seem like they did a good job. And then, in the few days after they left, as I'm looking around, I'm like, wow, they didn't dust that, and that's like right out in the open, obvious. Yeah, so
good in corners.
So I couldn't go back to them. So finally, I found somebody. She did a great job. Yeah, I'm still finding places that she cleaned that are, kind of like out of the way. It's like, wow, she did that. Okay, good. And then also, Anthesis had a dance, a Halloween dance for all the participants. They haven't gotten together like that since before COVID. So they were thrilled. So we had a Halloween dance. They all dressed up in costumes. And, man, they go all out. There was some great costumes. I had a spaghetti feed. Yeah, it was a fun night. But then I find out, this was Friday night. Then I find out Monday that our CEO of Anthesis was there. She's great, Sean. We're going to have her on here at some point. But she puts out an email on Monday saying she's come down with COVID. So I don't know if it was somebody at the dance, if she already had it before, but at any rate, I was exposed to her. So I started yesterday to feel like I have a little, like right now, I have just a touch of a runny nose, but the wind has been blowing like crazy here. The wind blowing at your house, Eric?
Oh, yes, I know exactly what you mean. It's been windy here for the past 2 days,
Yeah.
like there's not tomorrow.
So
And
I'm
every morning,
just,
because of the wind or whatever it may be, I have like a combination and a small cough and maybe a stuffy nose here and there, but
yeah.
that
So,
goes away after a couple hours in the morning.
yeah, so I hope it's just that. When we say windy, there's this tunnel of wind that comes down from the pass of 15, and there's just this kind of a tunnel of wind that comes through here from time to time. And I'm talking back years ago, it was like 70 miles an hour. It was hurricane force winds. But now it seems to have slowed down. I think this is just my own speculation, but I think it's because they built so much up the hill above us that I think that slowly kind of slowed it down a little bit. So yeah, it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be, but still, yeah, I think that's what's kind of kicking up my sinuses. All right. Well, Mr. Halloween man, we've got Cathy Grinnan. She's an old friend of mine. Worked with her on many different organizations and events. So I wanted to have her back on and tell her story. She's got a very compelling story of her daughter and a son that had a heart defect, and we'll hear that whole journey coming up next as we come to you from the Aguiar Professional Training Studio here on Walk and Roll Live.
We'll be right back, folks.
Aguiar Professional Training offers comprehensive organizational development and organizational effectiveness services for corporations, nonprofits, educational institutions, and individuals. What they do is improve work environments in key areas, such as performance management gaps, group interactions, morale and trust building, and team dynamics, to name just a few. Using a strength-based approach in conjunction with individual or group coaching, all of the strategies have produced significant results. APT also assists with managing change, improving work processes, training, and management of human capital. Learn more at aguiarprofessionaltraining.com. AGUIAR professionaltraining.com. Welcome to Walk and Roll Live. I am Doug Vincent, and my friend Eric Aguilar here with us too. Happy Halloween, buddy.
Good morning, folks. Happy Halloween.
Very nice. And today's guest is Cathy Grinnan. I've known her for so long, and I don't even know where to start. I know we got involved when you were with the Heart Association here in the Inland Empire of Southern California, and you were doing a big walk that I got involved with. Did that for a few years, and then I know you've worked for a number of different nonprofits in different areas. And moved to North Carolina, so we'll hear about that a little bit later and catch up on what you're doing now. But when I met Cathy, she has an extraordinary story, and that story was deep into it by the time I met you. I know you had a CBS special on your daughter at the time, and so let's kind of back up and talk a little bit about that. How did that all start? I know you had one child that had a kind of a rare heart disease, right?
Yes, a child in 1985 that had a congenital heart defect, what we call a CHD.
Okay.
And he passed away at 2 days old. So, that was devastating enough. And then, fast forward, it was 13 years later when I was pregnant with my daughter, Hannah, and she was also diagnosed with a CHD, which was the same one that her brother died of. So that's a really rare thing to happen, number one. But in the congenital heart defect world, her heart defect and my son's heart defect were extremely rare. They were about 1 in 10,000 births. And it's a condition called hypoplastic left heart syndrome. And what that means is that the left side of the heart is not developed. It doesn't mean it's underdeveloped. It means it will never develop. So the left side of the heart is the primary side that pumps oxygenated blood to the body. And the right side of your heart pumps the blood to your lungs. So you can't live with just the right side. You have to have both a left and a right side. And each side has 2 chambers. So when we talk about a 4-chamber heart, she really had 2 chambers and they were very small. So when she was diagnosed while I was pregnant, we already knew that she was either going to not survive her birth or survive her birth and need a heart transplant as soon as the heart became available. So that's how we actually got out to California, Doug. So
You started in Colorado?
I was born in Colorado, but at the time we were in Arizona.
Gotcha.
So we went to California to Loma Linda University Children's Hospital. And as you know, and many of your listeners in the IE know what a fabulous center it is for many things. But at the time it was and still is, the place that we felt was the best option for our daughter to get a heart transplant. And we were really fortunate to get, really great care there. And her heart surgeon was the surgeon that did Baby Faye, Dr. Leonard Bailey. So he actually pioneered the infant heart transplant. So we couldn't have done any better with selecting where we were going to go to get this really dramatic operation done.
I know I probably told you this, but when I was up north before I ever moved down here, we were already telling the stories of what was going on at Loma Linda. So, to come and move here and then, be in this community that was, so, involved in their very early stages of it. And then, of course, for you to reap the benefits is awesome.
It was kind of a full circle moment for us, because when we lost our son, he passed away in Denver, Colorado. He was transferred from the small town we lived in to the Children's Hospital in Denver. And my husband had said, could we get a heart transplant? Could we get my son a baboon heart? Because at the time, that the baboon heart transplant had just taken place. And my son was born less than a year after baby Faye was born. So we were really looking for any option and grasping for any bit of hope. And the Children's Hospital in Denver at the time had said, well, that transplant didn't work, the baboon heart transplant, and that there was no option for us. And so he passed away. So when you have another child with the same defect, you automatically think you're going to have the same outcome.
Yeah.
But we had followed transplantation for infants over the years just because of our son. And we didn't know that the doctor that performed the baboon heart transplant was at Loma Linda. We had just found Loma Linda, and we looked at their statistics for long-term outcomes for their babies, and that's what we went on, was actually the waiting period there at Loma Linda and the long-term outcome, as opposed to what was more convenient for our family, because obviously it wasn't convenient to move to California. But when she received her new heart when she was 11 days old, and we were getting ready to move back to Arizona after about almost 6 months.
Cathy, let me ask you a couple of things. First of all, is this hereditary? Have you determined that or no?
What they determined, Doug, for us in our case was, it's not something, a gene that I passed down or something that my husband passed down. It was the combination of us together. So if I were married to a different person, the likelihood of me having children with heart defects was really lowered.
Gotcha.
And the same thing for him. So it was kind of the throw of the dice that we had together. And that's basically what they came up with.
Yeah. So, and then also between your son and your daughter, were there, other than transplants, were there other advancements that kind of helped improve her likeliness to have a good outcome?
Yeah, there's a lot of hope for hypoplastic left heart syndrome patients, depending on how much of a left side they still have intact. If they have a left side, but maybe smaller, some chambers, some smaller ones, they can have a surgery called the Norwood procedure, and that was invented by Dr. Bill Norwood, who created a way you really kind of replumb the heart a little bit, like a plumber, where you reroute everything. And so you can reroute different vessels in the heart that will keep it functional. But with that, Hannah didn't have that option because she had no left side whatsoever.
Gotcha.
So there wasn't anything to quote unquote fix.
So
she needed a new heart.
So this had already been determined before she was born.
Yes.
And so the heart transplant was already planned, and
yes.
And you're looking for a donor and all that. So as soon as she was born, they could do that as quickly as you could.
As quickly as a donor could be found, but what we had a little glitch when she was born, because she wasn't stable enough to be listed for heart, because when you go on the UNOS recipient list, you have to be sick enough but stable enough. So it's a balancing act, and she wasn't stable until her 5th day of life. So she was added to the UNOS recipient list. They always call it the donor list, but she's not the donor, she's the recipient.
Recipient, yeah.
So I would say the recipient list for an organ. And so she really technically, she was 11 days old, but she only was on the list for 6 days.
I was going to say that the window for this was incredibly small, right?
Very small.
Yeah. I mean, I know this story, and I know we've talked about it before. I'm getting the hair on my arms is standing up, because it's as a parent, you know what you want to happen. And for many transplant recipients that are in need, it may be weeks, months, years, that they're trying to sustain life before they can find one. But as soon as she's born, that there's this window that it has to happen, or there's not going to be a good outcome. I'm like, oh my gosh,
it's a very tricky thing. And when you talk about something like, there's a lot of parents, probably most transplant parents have a form of PTSD because it's so traumatic on your brain. Because not only are you hoping someone's going to save your child's life, you understand that someone else's child must die.
You never can forget that. Absolutely.
So it's something that we struggle with, and there's been books written on it. And the syndrome, I guess, what you would call it, is recipient guilt. It's very similar to survivor's guilt, probably in the same category.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard. And over the years, we've gotten better at it because we understand as a family that my daughter's heart donor was going to die anyway, and we had nothing to do with the death of a baby.
Have you had an opportunity to talk to any donor families to get their perspective? Absolutely, yeah.
I've had an opportunity. I did a lot of work, volunteer work for One Legacy, and they are the organ procurement organization in the region where you are now. And so I was their volunteer of the year one year. It was a long time ago. I can't remember the year. But we would do donor recognition ceremonies. So that every year One Legacy has those ceremonies, and a lot of times they're at Loma Linda, but they always recognize the donor families from the previous year. And when you get into a room of people who've lost their children or young adults or adults to a tragedy, and they become an organ donor, 100% of the time, I will tell you, they are very happy with the decision to donate. And no, I have not talked to one donor family member who regrets making that decision. In fact, they not only not regret it, they said they don't know how they could have lived through the death if they hadn't done it, because they understand that their loved ones saved numerous lives, and that gives them a lot of comfort as they're grieving.
Right. And in some way their child is living on. Well, I think literally.
Well, their child's DNA is most definitely living on. So their essence, their soul is not here, but the essence of their DNA is still on this earth. And that gives our donor family a lot of consolation. And especially as they watched Hannah grow over the years, and they feel like that's, that their son and their brother has, made a contribution to humanity.
So this isn't necessarily right?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily anonymous. So the family of
we know the family, and that's not always the case. And the reason we know the family, I think we probably would have met them eventually, but because, as you said in our conversation earlier, we did have a CBS like a mini documentary done on Hannah's story, and because of that, the CBS affiliate had decided, through the hospitals, they worked out, meeting the donor family, and the donor family had agreed to be interviewed. And and you have to remember, this is a few weeks after they just lost their son, and they agreed. They thought it was so important to put the message out for organ donation, and infant organ donation in particular, because no one expects to lose a newborn child in this day and age. It happens more often than you think that it happens. So they felt like it was important to participate. Certainly they didn't have to, and I told the producers of CBS, do not pressure them, because I'm in respect for the privacy of everything. But they just jumped in, and they were willing to be interviewed, and I don't know that I could have done it, but I don't know about that.
So Hannah, if I may use her name, bless her heart.
All over the
pun not intended. So she's got her new heart.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the journey's not over. Obviously, that part of it, it's there's still, it's a day-to-day thing, right?
It's a long haul, and it's for life, because when you hear about, I think the number one question she gets asked is, so do you have to take medicine every day? And she says, for the rest of my life, twice a day, every day. And so basically what that medicine does is it suppresses her immune system. And because her heart is always foreign, it's never a part of her, even though it's sitting inside of her.
So the body never kind of says, okay, you've been here a while, I accept you. That never happens.
It doesn't. But the reason that transplantation is working so well, and over the decades, is because the immune suppression drugs, you have to suppress the immune system to keep it quiet and keep it under control, to where it won't attack her heart. But you have to leave her enough of an immune system for her to fight off a cold and a flu. So it's a balancing act on every cold and flu season.
I was going to say just what we've been through in the last couple of years too with COVID. That must have been a frightening experience in time for you guys.
It's very frightening, but I will tell you what COVID did for me personally.
Yeah,
I actually was a little more okay with COVID, not the death rate of COVID, but actually with the way people started washing their hands and using hand sanitizers and protecting themselves and wearing masks, and that really helped protect my daughter. And actually, in a perfect world, you should wash your hands that much anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think people had a heightened awareness of the transmission of viruses and germs and things like that actually Hannah benefited from, because she felt more safe during COVID than at any other time in her life.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how's Hannah doing today? I know, I've followed her progress, and I mean, you wouldn't know, if anybody didn't know what she was going through, a thriving, through her young years and through her teenage years, cheerleader, just, I mean, all the things that
you're on my Facebook, you know that.
Yeah.
She had one pretty bad rejection a few weeks after she was born. But after that, she hasn't had another one. And the data on that, they think that is because when she had a really bad one when she was a baby, her they call them little soldiers. Her immune system was very strong at that time, and they had to knock it down almost to nothing. And the immune soldiers that came after the first battle have not been there as long as her heart has. So the way they tell it like a cartoon, like these little soldiers are going, well, what's that over there? Well, I don't know. It's been here a while, and it was here before us. So that's how they kind of explained it to me.
Uh-huh.
That her new immune cells that came in after they had knocked her immune system down to save her life are newer than her heart. So they feel like long-term data on her situation is very good.
Interesting.
And also, Doug, she's in a group of transplanted children. They call them neonates. They're under 30 days old. If you look at the data on kids that are under 30 days old that receive a solid organ transplant, their long-term survival far exceeds the other groups, by far.
Oh. So say again.
She's in a great group, of data. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And so I imagine, the doctors, the scientists, the researchers, all of that follow all this stuff have learned so much from this group.
They really have, and it keeps getting better. We had they told us when she was little, the data that we had when she was little was that a transplanted organ would last an average of 10 years. But not in her group. And what they're finding is, when she hit 10 years old, we had a huge party. Because we thought, oh my goodness, can you believe she's been here 10 years? And I know that sounds maybe a little morbid, but we were just so thrilled that she was here 10 years. And then when she hit 15 years, and then she hit 20 years, and she just turned 25, and that was a big deal.
Wow.
And she's doing so well. And so she had a lot of the hospital, Children's Hospital, and a couple organizations put out a big press release. Hannah Grinnan makes it to 25, and it's really comforting.
Another thing over the years, and tell me, she's been kind of a spokesperson for this in many regards at events and that kind of thing. And it seems like she embraces that totally. It's not something like it's a duty that she has to perform because she's in this place. But she really seems to embrace it.
She does embrace it, and she embraces it really well now. I would say she embraced it when she was little, but in her teenage years, just like every other teenager,
sure.
The last thing she wanted to do was get up and talk to people about herself. She didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And so she did take a break. She took a break, and that was about the time I left the American Heart Association, because they really wanted, rightfully so, they really wanted her and I to keep doing the things that we were doing. And she just said she didn't want to do it. And she wanted to focus on high school stuff and cheerleading, and I respected that. And we backed off of like a lot of events during those years. But now she's 25, and she's got an associate's degree in communications, and she's she got that over COVID, because she was an esthetician, but when she couldn't make anyone as an esthetician during COVID, she went back to school.
Good.
And so she's looking for some opportunities out here in North Carolina. But the thing that is kind of, she feels that she were back in California, where she has more name recognition, she would probably get more opportunities, but no one really knows her story out here. And so she may end up back in California, Doug. Who knows?
Who knows? Well, I think your life can attest to that you never know, what turns it's going to take. So, well, I was kind of surprised, because we were just working a year or so ago on a project here. And I think I saw a post on LinkedIn or Facebook or something, and you said something about you in North Carolina, and I'm like, what? So I immediately texted you, North Carolina, what? so how did that happen?
Far away from California if I tried it.
Right? Yeah.
My next stop is Scotland, or
I wouldn't be surprised. So what are you doing in North Carolina?
Well, when Hannah was already out here, and so was her sister Sarah, and Sarah got married out here, and we did her wedding, and we just fell in love. The whole family fell in love with North Carolina.
Yeah.
I started just I changed my LinkedIn for job opportunities in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I got an offer from the company where I currently am, and I just took it because you only live once, right? So we knew, we wanted to get out of California right now.
You're not alone.
It was a very tough, because I have a whole family there.
Yeah. I was just thinking about this as you were just talking. Maybe we first, for a little bit of context, how many siblings does Hannah have?
Oh, yeah. Hannah's the youngest of 7, and so she's technically the youngest of 8, if you count my son that passed away.
Absolutely. So
Hannah has 2 brothers. So we actually do have what the kids call it is a wolf pack.
Yeah.
Wolf pack, and to quote a Game of Thrones saying, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. And that's exactly how my kids are. They really take care of each other.
Yeah.
And
again, see that over the years.
I'm actually the oldest out of all the second to the oldest out of all my siblings.
Oh, you
I
are?
know what it's like to have a big family.
And how many siblings do you have?
I got 3 younger brothers, 3 sisters. My third sister has 3 years on me, which makes her the oldest out of everybody. And then I have half sister on my dad's side, and then 3 nieces, 3 nephews.
Wow, look at that. That's amazing. It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes it could be fun. Other times it could be a circus,
Yes,
depending on how you look at it.
yes.
Yeah, always a circus. Yeah. Oh, that's great. So, tell us a little bit about what you're doing there in North Carolina.
Well,
Because it's just to back up real quick. You were involved in a number of organizations here. I think that's why when I was on radio, and I would interview you for these different places where you were, and you would bring your skills, and I've learned you really are a bit of a mentor to me. I don't know if you know that, but I would always contact Cathy when in my work doing fundraisers and that kind of thing. She'd always give me good advice on strategies and kind of how to do things, and that's the pulse of things, everything. So
yeah, you're so kind. Well, let's go through it really briefly. So, American Heart Association,
yeah,
Rightus Foundation.
arthritis.
You were on my board, right?
Mm-hmm.
At
I was involved. I don't know if I was on the board, but yeah.
Okay.
Well, what Cathy always has me do wherever she is MC for something, an event or something. So, and I'm glad to do it.
Yeah, you always were really super great when it came to events because you always need a good stage presence, someone with that can really work the crowd and all of that. And you're always so good at that. Then I worked for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And then more locally, I was the first charity director for Hangar 24 Charities, on the big brewery out there. And I did the air show, and then I got involved with a couple other air shows because of that. And then I worked with you over in Anthesis for a brief period.
Mm-hmm.
So, from doing, cancer, arthritis, heart-related issues to air shows and walks and galas, stuff like that. I've pretty much done a ton of things.
So what you're doing now is not a nonprofit, right?
It is. It's a
Oh, it is a
nonprofit.
nonprofit. Oh, okay, good. But a lot of those same skills transferred very well, I'm sure.
It did transfer as far as the skills, but I will say the learning curve of the industry, and the organization is called the Wilmington Realtors Foundation, and it was founded in 1987. And they basically founded it back in 87, and they had one program called Realtors Helping Realtors. So when a realtor has an issue like a sick child, or maybe they got cancer or something, the other realtors in the association would pull some fundraising together. This obviously is way before any crowdfunding stuff. And they will pull some funds together to help another realtor who couldn't go out and sell homes at the time. So, but that has kind of evolved to an added program based on the housing issues that a lot of the realtors experience through their own clients, where they will have what they coin as the missing middle. It will be individuals like firefighters, nurses, and teachers, our most vital members of the community, who don't qualify for some low-income housing assistance, but that also don't have the salary to qualify for $500,000 or $1 million home. So they were priced out of the market, and they didn't have a whole lot of options. So their options were, joining the rental market, which is crazy all over the U.S. And so what Wilmington Realtors Foundation decided to do was they would get involved and really put their money where their mouth is, and actually build a project, a development called, it's named after a realtor locally here that passed away, who was a huge philanthropist in the local community. His name was John Pearson. And so the townhome development's called Pearson Point. And basically, before I got here, they had already, the foundation had purchased the land, really kind of towards the beach. And it's not luxury land. And it's, so don't think that, that they, that there's beachfront property for $250,000, but it's on a street called Carolina Beach Road. and it's 48 townhome units, and they're 2 to 3 bedrooms with a one car garage, and they're not priced over $250,000. So there was a lot of work that the board had to do before I got here. There was, deed restrictions because you have to keep those homes at 250. So say someone buys it, they can't flip it, and it has to be their primary residence. So there's a lot of restrictions that came along with building the project to make sure it would stay at $250,000.
Yeah. And do they have to stay there a certain amount of time?
They have to. I have to look at my notes and check the years. But they get to when they resell the home. When they do resell it, they get 2% a year that they can, equity into the home, and then so it's not an opportunity where you're going to buy it at $250,000 and then 5 years later you can sell it at 1.2.
Yeah.
Really is a specific project that actually addresses home ownership and not throwing your money away on rental properties. And then it's just, there's so much advantages to owning your own home. As far as keeping kids in the education system, and, so that when you own your own home, you can focus on other things that are going to help and benefit your family.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the cornerstone of the American dream. It's without it, the kind of the regular American can't really build generational wealth, and
Right.
it's such a great opportunity. Yeah. Well, this is Walk and Roll Live, so I have to ask: are there handicap amenities for the project?
Yes, there are. We actually we are going to adhere to all of the ADA guidelines for basically, for example, like 36-inch doors, things like that. But in building the development, we will just be working with families or individuals with handicaps on a 1-by-1 basis. So we'll see what they need, and we'll have to build it to that specifications. And of course, that will be at the buyer's expense, as would anything. So, but we will accommodate all of the criteria that's needed for, bottom floor, master bedroom on bottom floor, things like that. And all the things that anyone with handicaps might need for their comfort.
Well, that's awesome, because so many times they don't get people involved who have a disability, and subsequently there's things that are overlooked. We talk about it all the time on the show, and that's awesome that you have individual needs. That's the other thing. Even though there may be people with similar disabilities, no two people are alike, in the severity of their disability or the needs of their disability. So having them involved in that process is awesome.
We already have a waiting list, and we haven't officially launched our development yet. There's been some reports out in the media, but we already, out of 48 units that we have to sell, we already have a waiting list of 20 individuals. Now, what they have to do, though, is they have to qualify with their lender. We don't have anything to do with that. So as long as they're pre-qualified with their lender for the $250,000, and then what will happen is, if we get more than 48 individuals or families involved, we're going to have to do a lottery system in order to keep it very fair. And so after the lottery system, then if there needs to be some handicap modifications, we'll deal with those on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, it's just wonderful that you're open to addressing those needs. That's great.
Oh yeah, we're very excited about it, and I was trying to think if there was something else besides that. I can't think of what it is, but I'm sure it'll come to me when we're off the air.
Right, or somebody will let you know, that they have a need that needs to be filled, and and then you guys can address it at that point, right?
Exactly. Oh, I know what it was. So what we're also going to be doing, because our development, our main goal is to make sure that it's accessible to without any sort of biases or any sort of things that would carry over into the industry. And so we're also offering a first time or home buyers. It doesn't have to be a first time home, but home ownership class that they actually are going to have to take before they are approved for one of the units, because what we want to do is really educate them on different areas of owning a home as far as maintenance and taxes and different things that can happen, and so that they go into the development with just full disclosure of everything, the pros and cons actually of owning your own home.
Yeah,
So
I've been dealing with that here lately. Plumbing and electrical issues. Just over time, you have to take care of those things. But yep, it's a big part of home ownership.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad we got to cover that because it is an important piece. And like you were just saying, Doug, it's not every situation is the same. But we feel like it's to be as fair with this development as we can possibly be. We want to address every issue because we're looked at there. There's not a whole lot of organizations that are doing this. We're actually partnering with government entities, city and county, and also other nonprofits. So there's a lot of things that are involved in actually building a project, and so it's just been a learning experience. And so we'll put together a playbook that we're actually gonna, I would say for a fee, we're gonna offer our playbook to other counties, even other states. Now you're going to have different issues in other states with regulations and things, but the playbook is something that we're in the process of creating so that we can show other cities and counties how to replicate our efforts. And because we're really the pioneers in this, we're really doing all the groundwork. And I know for a fact in my hometown of Durango, Colorado, the former mayor there said, please keep me posted on how this is going because this is something that our town really needs as well. And I think that there's a lot of towns across this nation that need certain developments like this. The missing middle, it's crazy, that there's such a need for it. You don't think about it, but there really is. The longer I'm here, and the more things I get to do with this development, the more excited I get. As coming from just my own background, single mom, she had the advantage of right after she and my dad got divorced, then my mom was able to purchase a home in Colorado, but it was through, back in the late 60s, remember when women couldn't have their own bank accounts?
Yeah.
It was right after the Fair Housing Act was passed. And so she was able to take advantage of the Fair Housing Act as a single woman and buy us our home. And it was the home that my brothers and I lived with my mom until I got married, until my brother went to the military, and then so we were there the whole time in a nice little neighborhood. We had the same neighborhood kids that we grew up with. And so I understand firsthand how important that was for me. And I didn't realize it until I actually thought about how privileged I was to with that. So.
Well, very good. Well, great catching up. Thank you for, taking time out of your day because I know you're busy these days. So we appreciate you catching up and coming on and joining us here on Walk and Roll Live.
Yeah, well, are we live? Are we live now?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. I don't know if it was good for later, so that's awesome. That's great, Doug.
And then, one last thing, if you have any advice, through all of the ups and downs and curves and everything you've been through, do you have any advice for our listeners who may be going through similar struggles?
Well, that's a loaded question because I have advice on heart disease or what, or homeownership or what. Here's here's my advice. And I don't mean it to be religious advice, but it's advice that I heard recently that kind of has given me a lot of comfort. And basically, it was a pastor who had said, um, if you believe there's a creator and there's a higher power or whatever you call him, God, that this creator um, has the ability to see time and space. So he already knows the outcome of any situation. And I really did believe that with my daughter as well when she was getting her heart. I already knew God already knew what was going to happen with her, and it took a load off of me. So when people, and it's very simple, people say, well, put your trust in God and you can unburden your burdens. But I think when you put it in the context of God, he doesn't have space or time. He knows things way in advance than we'll ever know them. So just to kind of trust in that, and that he has the best thing in store for you, and this trust in that. So I didn't want to get religious per se, but I just wanted to get that message. No matter what it is, it could be health issues, it could be financial issues like home ownership, or it could be other things that you're facing, is that he already knows what you're going through. He already knows what your outcome's going to be. And you should trust that, just unload that burden off of yourself. Right?
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming on Walk and Roll Live.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Where hinges creak in doorless chambers, where strange and frightening sounds echo through the halls.
Let me tell you, Doug, we've been a team for over a year now, and out of all the stories I've heard, this was one of the most heartwarming and inspiring stories I've heard. It gave me a new perspective on the heart itself, and it taught me that a curse can be transferred to a blessing, no matter what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when I first heard her story, I mean, to have that kind of a rare heart condition with one child, is incredible enough. And then to have it with a second child, but in that period between the two, to have so many medical advancements that you could save that child. I mean, it's like, if there's ever a story for not giving up, that's got to be one, right?
Right.
Yeah. So thank you once again to Cathy for coming on and joining us on Walk and Roll Live. Next week, I have no idea. You got any ideas? I have a list of people that I'm going to reach out to, but do you know anybody? Do you know anybody listening? Yeah, if you want to send us an email, we'll reach out to them, see if we can get them on. But in the meantime, I'll find somebody. We'll do something next week here on Walk and Roll Live from the Aguiar Professional Studio. Hey, also, I've kind of posted this around to some of our social media. We've reached and gone beyond our 1,000 downloads. So we appreciate that. The people that distribute our podcast, they have little badges, little places. What's the word I'm looking for? Milestones that you reach, and then they have a little badge for it. So I've posted that everywhere, but wanted to mention it here and thank everybody for listening. First of all, thank you. We appreciate that so much. And then liking and sharing. And, I have conversations from time to time with my friends, and I know they listen because they'll cite something that we've said in our podcast. Somebody I was talking to yesterday said, I agree with your idea about putting some of the handicap parking places in the middle of the parking lot. And I'm like, okay, all right, you're listening.
I've had a lot of good feedback about the show also, and it's mostly
Yep.
from the gals. And I'm not going to really mention who, but
Yeah.
it's mostly from the gals. They shake their heads and they smile. Oh, that Eric, man.
That's me too. I shake my head and I say, "Oh, that Eric." Hey, you know the other thing too. I want to thank Safety Powers again, our guest from last week, and they were on a month or so ago as well. They do a remarkable job of putting the word out through their social media. They share ours. You know, I put something out, they'll share that, but they create their own, and the numbers reflect it. I think that's a big reason why we went over 1,000 downloads. So thank you once again to Safety Powers, our friends over there. Check them out at safetypowers.org. And you can find us anywhere, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Podbean, everywhere. So with that being said, Eric, take us out there with your Halloween ghoulishness.
A couple of things before we get going.
Yeah.
Before we get going, my friends.
You go.
On your night of Halloween, in light of having a good time, don't forget to carry a flashlight, a glow stick, traveling groups, go to only houses that you're familiar with or houses that have their lights on, have parents check the candy before eating, and most importantly, have a very spooky Halloween, everybody.
Walk and Roll Live is heard around the world at walkandrolllive.com, Podbean, and Spotify. Like us at facebook.com/walkandrolllive. You can email us at
live@walkandrolllive.com with comments, observations, or whatever's on your mind. Have a topic you'd like to hear or a guest you think would be great for the show?
Let us know.
Look for new episodes every Tuesday afternoon.
Thanks for listening.